Ukraine's $100 million midnight strike exposes Russia's Invincible missile complex in minutes. In one of the most stunning reversals of military expectations, a Russian missile complex long believed to be untouchable collapsed in minutes after a perfectly timed Ukrainian strike. What unfolded was not a large-scale bombardment, but a meticulously engineered operation that exploited a tiny diagnostic window, dense fog, and Russia's lowered alert state. Low-cost drones dismantled a launcher worth nearly $100 million, while a follow-up attack exposed deeper failures in Russia's air defense network. This was precision warfare reshaping the battlefield and redefining what modern strikes can achieve. Now, the story begins with the first vulnerability Russia never saw coming. Today at 3:15 a.m., a quiet Russian missile test site in the south collapsed into a disaster that would ultimately cost Moscow more than $100 million in losses. The ground had been calm only minutes earlier. No alarms, no aircraft in the sky, and no indication that anything unusual was coming. Yet, within moments, smoke rose from the support structures, personnel scrambled without answers, and a facility once considered untouchable found itself facing a failure it never prepared for. The shock began with a tiny opening, one brief diagnostic cycle, exposed at the wrong moment, observed by the right enemy. By 3:15 a.m., the missile complex at Kapanar initiated a routine test that required opening the silo doors. Russian crews treated the procedure as predictable. The step exposed the cryogenic lines and internal circuits normally protected beneath reinforced steel plates. For Ukraine, this was the exact moment they had spent 2 days waiting for. Their reconnaissance teams had monitored the site for 48 hours, tracking each movement of operators, logging the timing of security rotations, and calculating the precise second when delicate components would appear. To Ukraine, the diagnostic phase was not just a schedule, it was an opportunity worth more than the cost of the entire mission. The cryogenic pipes supporting the missile were designed for stability, not durability. They carried liquid nitrogen essential for maintaining missile temperature during pre-launch cycles. Engineers protected these systems inside layers of casing, but the diagnostic forced them into partial exposure. Ukraine understood that the armored silo itself could survive heavy strikes, but the supporting network, the coolant lines, conduits, and exposed wiring could collapse under precise damage. Their objective became clear: disable what keeps the missile alive, not the missile housing itself. Intercepted Russian communications confirmed that the opening was part of a minor test. Since the crew believed they were handling simple maintenance, they lowered their readiness state. Long-range defenses were active, but on a reduced alert posture. Internal operators focused more on technical checks than external threats. For Ukraine, this combination of low alertness and exposed systems created a rare operational window. The Ukrainian side treated the early morning moment as a test of discipline. They understood that hitting a launcher worth nearly $100 million required placing speed above size, precision above destruction. Commanders emphasized that their success depended on synchronized timing between surveillance teams, deception units, and drone pilots. The mission aimed not to destroy the silo through brute force, but to collapse it through targeted disruption. Ukraine began the operation with an unexpected tactic: deception. A small special reconnaissance support unit staged a fake traffic accident roughly 3 miles from the silo. The event blocked the only access road, forcing Russian patrols to divert their attention. Because the scene resembled a civilian mishap, it did not trigger security protocols. Reinforcements were delayed, and Ukraine gained time to move their strike assets closer. From a concealed compartment inside a civilian vehicle, Ukrainian operators deployed OSA series FPV drones. Each drone cost roughly $2,000, a small sum compared to the value of the target. The drones relied on speed, maneuverability, and low acoustic signatures rather than large explosive payloads. Heavy fog had settled over the region, reducing sensor performance across the Russian defensive grid. Moisture distorted radar signals and limited visual tracking. Systems like the Tor M2 and Pantsir S1, which performed best under clear skies, now struggled to maintain consistent targeting data. Ukrainian operators kept their drones low, using the fog as a natural shield. This atmospheric advantage allowed the drones to bypass the outermost detection systems. The mission emphasized precision rather than bold movements. A traditional strike using aircraft or long-range missiles would have alerted every defensive layer, but FPV drones could slip into the gaps of Russia's defensive network, silently approaching sensitive equipment. The Ukrainian team selected shaped charges designed to penetrate thin metal structures rather than thick armor. These charges were ideal for striking coolant lines and exposed conduits. Operators monitored Russian sensor activity, adjusting their flight paths to avoid radar sweeps. They maintained slow ascents and shallow turns to prevent sudden spikes in their signatures. The goal was to reach the inner defensive ring before electronics fully stabilized. Ukraine's strategy prioritized disabling the support structure rather than attacking the silo directly. The diagnostic cycle forced the system into a temporary vulnerability. Ukrainian intelligence believed that damaging the cooling system could induce catastrophic internal failure. This became the central principle guiding their approach. The assault required navigating Russia's multi-layered air defense network. The first drone, OSA-1, entered the electronic warfare zone, seeking to provoke the Kasuka-4 jammer. Once the jammer was activated, Ukrainian operators recorded its frequency, pulse rhythm, and emission strength. OSA-1 was lost, but its sacrifice mapped the electronic barrier. Information satellites could not detect in real time. Next, OSA-2 climbed higher to deliberately trigger the S-400 long-range defense. The battery fired a 48N6 missile that destroyed the drone immediately, but the launch exposed the fire control radar's position, orientation, and the duration of its reset cycle. Ukraine identified a crucial window when the S-400 temporarily could not fire again. With the long-range layer momentarily offline, OSA-3 advanced into the zone protected by the Tor M2. The system detected the drone and launched an interceptor, but the drone dove into the fog. Radar reflections weakened and the missile lost tracking. Moments later, the Pantsir S-1 opened fire with 57 E-6 rockets. The burst destroyed OSA-3, but forced the Pantsir into a recalibration phase. Ukraine knew from prior study that this recalibration created a short vulnerability. This sequence revealed the full defensive pattern. OSA-1 mapped jamming zones, OSA-2 identified long-range radar behavior, and OSA-3 exposed mid-range tracking weaknesses in fog. These insights cleared a narrow path for the final drone. OSA-4, the decisive drone, entered the strike zone despite damage from earlier fragments. Its engine delivered uneven thrust, causing unstable movement. Instead of correcting the drift, the pilot turned it into an advantage. He guided the drone in a spiral around the silo structure, hiding it within blind angles Russian gunners struggled to track. Each rotation reduced its radar visibility as it hugged the concrete surface. When OSA-4 reached the inner perimeter, it slipped under the upper edge of the silo, an angle Russian operators were not prepared to defend. The pilot located the exposed 5-inch liquid nitrogen pipe and accelerated directly into it. The shaped charge tore open the line, releasing supercooled nitrogen that caused rapid contraction of metal components. Welds fractured. Thermal shock exposed wiring. A spreading short circuit reached the missile's support frame. Sparks ignited nearby conventional explosives. The internal blast twisted the 48-ton launcher and collapsed its structural supports. A seismic reading of 1.9 was recorded as debris scattered across the complex. Russia attempted an emergency response, but internal damage made rescue and repair impossible. Engineers later determined that the cooling chamber had collapsed inward, destroying missile rails and electronics. The launcher was permanently lost. More importantly, the strike proved that low-cost platforms, when combined with timing and intelligence, could defeat one of Russia's most guarded systems. The loss of the Kapanar launcher reverberated through Russia's command structure. These silos require years to build and millions to maintain. Each unit depends on advanced cooling systems and precision engineering. Losing one reduces Russia's capacity for testing and long-range readiness. The impact also created a break in the defensive layout around the region, opening an exploitable corridor in their air defense grid. Russian authorities scrambled to contain the fallout. They suspended operations at several nearby sites, reassigned reassigned engineers and ordered full inspections of diagnostic procedures. The sudden fear of hidden vulnerabilities slowed the broader missile program. To reinforce the rear, Russia redeployed valuable radars and EW vehicles from the front lines, weakening frontline units that depended on those assets. International observers quickly analyzed the operation. Defense planners in the United States, Poland, and Israel noted how Ukraine blended decoys, fog, and FPV precision to defeat multiple layers of a hardened defense. The attack challenged old assumptions about silo durability and highlighted the strategic value of low-cost drones in modern warfare. While Russia struggled to reorganize, Ukraine moved to exploit the disruption. A second operation targeted the Kasuka-4 electronic warfare system. Its location was revealed inadvertently when a Russian soldier posted a selfie containing GPS data. Ukraine reacted within minutes. They launched a two-layer attack. In the upper layer, 5 Banshee decoys climbed high, mimicking fighter aircraft radar signatures and drawing Russian focus upward. In the lower layer, 10 FPV drones traveled along pre-programmed low-altitude routes, avoiding most radar sweeps. Tor M2 units fired on the decoys, revealing their engagement rhythm. Ukrainian teams recorded every emission, building a profile of the defense. Once Russian operators were fully engaged, Ukraine deployed a specialized FPV known as a digital sniper. This drone released a focused electronic burst directly into the Kasuka-4's receiver, blinding its display and severing coordination with nearby armored units. 6 remaining FPVs then attacked visually, using the jammer's antenna as a guiding reference. The lead drone detonated inside the antenna housing, destroying the system and leaving Russian tanks and BMP-3 vehicles without their electronic shield. As they attempted to retreat, Ukrainian units targeted the now isolated armor, causing further losses. These operations illustrated Ukraine's accelerating shift toward cost-efficient warfare. Small drones, smart timings, and precise electronic disruption created strategic effects at a fraction of traditional cost. The combined Ukrainian missions inflicted more than $100 million in Russian losses, shook defensive confidence, and exposed vulnerabilities that Moscow had long considered unbreakable. Today's events raise a critical question for the future. Will Russia adapt quickly enough, or has modern warfare moved decisively into an era where low-cost drones dictate the battlefield?